Hello everyone, Ryan here. So this will be my first ever original tag, and I wanted to do something kind of Halloween themed. So I decided to do something that revolves around monsters, but not just any monsters, the classic movie monsters, I'm talking about guys like Dracula, the Mummy, Wolfman, so on. So yeah, I'll just get right into it here. Which, by the way, I decided to call this tag Madman's Monster Tag, so I figured it's a cool title. Number 1, Dracula. He's a badass with a lot of supernatural abilities and a lot of weaknesses. Name a book you like that contains a lot of plot holes and or uninteresting chapters. So for me, I chose Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins. I read and reviewed this a while ago. If you want to check out my review of this, I'll provide a link to it. But I believe I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I liked it, except that the only thing I didn't like about it was I felt like there was too many chapters in which just repeated the same stuff over and over. The same stuff about Rachel, the main character, the fact that she had a hard time remembering certain events, certain moments, and partly due to her being an alcoholic. Actually, I guess mostly due to her being an alcoholic. But yeah, I just felt like there was too many chapters in which it just repeated the same thing, and I could just tell that it was just the author's attempt, or maybe the author's editor, or maybe both of their attempts at stretching out the story just to make it a much thicker book. I don't know. So that's my choice for number 1. Number 2, The Wolfman. He's super strong and super aggressive. Name a book that grabbed your attention from beginning to end and left you feeling scarred. And by scarred, I mean like emotionally drained in some kind of way, or shocked in some kind of way, or just feeling like kind of like you want a little more or something. For this one, I'm going to go with The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, because pretty much to this day, it's the only book in which, back when I read it, which was like over 6-7 years ago, maybe even a little longer. But I remember the first time I picked it up, as soon as I read through the first chapter, I just kept on reading. I couldn't put it down. It was just something about it that really resonated with me at that time in my life. I guess I was like going through like a big transition period, and I was unsure about a lot of stuff, which most human beings tend to feel like, right? So, so yeah, I don't know, it just really resonated with me from beginning to end. And I remember by the time I got to the end, I felt like I wanted to know more, but I felt like slightly, I guess you could say, emotionally drained, because the main character, Holden Caulfield, to me it seemed like he was spouting off nothing but a lot of truth. And even though I know a lot of people consider him to be like some spoiled rich kid and all that, and I can see how they can interpret him like that, interpret the things he said, things he did in that way. But for me, it didn't really come off like that at all. So yeah, that's my choice for number 2. Number 3, Frankenstein's Monster. Some people call it Frankenstein, but I figure since he never really had an exact name, I mean, Dr. Frankenstein's creature, his creation, his monster, Frankenstein's monster. So anyways, Frankenstein's monster. He's composed of many different body parts and therefore finds it difficult being accepted by most of society. Name a book that tackles more than one important topic and is not well liked by everyone. So for this, I'm going to go with Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. It's a very interesting book. If you haven't read it already, I do recommend reading it. It is kind of thick. I want to say maybe it's like 500 or closer to 600 pages. It tackles different topics like racism, stereotypes, even a little bit of, what's the word? A little bit of, like, I guess you could say, the flaws that come with being a part of a modern society, but also living within, I guess you could say, like a modern industrial age. And yeah, just there's so much to it. There's so many layers to it. As far as I know, I guess it is, at one time when it first came out, it was well liked, well received. But as far as today goes, I'm not really sure if, I don't even think, like, probably more than half of the population in the country, in the U.S., like, I think, like, most people aren't even really aware of it. So yeah. So that was number 3. Number 4, The Mummy. He's dead and wrapped up in gauze, yet he's somehow still kind of scary. Now a book that you feel has a boring beginning, but a very interesting ending. So for this, I gotta go with Illuminae, or Illumina, or I've heard people pronounce it differently. Some people pronounce it Illuminae, others pronounce it Illumina, Illumina. I don't know. But anyways, it's like a YA sci-fi fantasy novel. And it's told mostly through a collection of emails and instant messages, other like text messages stuff, other shorthand stuff, schematics, and I remember I read and reviewed that a while ago too. And for me, like, I pretty much felt like the entire first half of the book, it was really hard for me to get into. I guess mostly because of the fact that it was told mostly through emails, and there was a lot of stuff that was blacked out because it was supposed to look like, I guess, somebody who got access to these emails before it was made into a book or something. They blacked out certain parts, and so yeah, first half was very difficult for me to get into, but by the latter half, by the second half, and especially towards the end, I really got into it. That's when it really picked up, and that's when I really started to pay attention. So yeah, if you haven't read that, I do recommend it, especially if you're a big sci-fi fan. But again, like I said, first half is pretty hard to get into, so, but second half more than makes up for it. So number 5, The Invisible Man. So I don't know if most people wouldn't consider the Invisible Man to be a monster, but he is part of that whole classic movie monster universe. So the Invisible Man, he's easy to lose track of and easy to forget about. Name a book that you believe is underrated and or in danger of being forgotten. So for me, I'm going to go with Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. So far I've read this twice. I recently reread it a while ago. Also reviewed it. I guess right now I don't really feel like it's in danger of being forgotten, but I do feel it is underrated. Granted, of course, I understand it might be somewhat difficult for a lot of people to understand because it is very, I guess, spiritually based, but also it's very philosophical, and there's a lot of questions that are brought up as to the nature of reality, the nature of existence, the nature of desire, but still, I feel everybody should read it at least once. So, all right. So, number 6, Creature from the Black Lagoon. He's amphibious and looks like a cross between a fish and a scuba diver. But he can be pretty creepy when he wants to be. And a book that creeped you out or made you cringe more than once. For me, I'm going to have to say 50 Shades of Grey, the first book. I did read like pretty much half of the first book. I didn't like it. It did make me cringe at least a couple of times. Not because I was offended, but mostly because I was... Well, yeah, I guess I was offended. Slightly offended by the bad writing. But hey, that's my personal opinion. Number 7, Phantom of the Opera. He wears a mask and a cape, but he's no superhero. And a book that led you to believe it was just another rip-off of others like it, but ultimately ended up being something quite unique. So I'm going to go with The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. I recently listened to the audiobook version of that, also reviewed that. And that was really good. I mean, really, definitely one of the best YA novels or audiobooks I've ever listened to. Yeah, because I initially, like, for me, it does kind of start out as like your typical YA novel, like there's typical teenage stuff going on, but then it becomes something so much more, and it becomes a it then becomes a very realistic depiction of the whole topic of excuse me, becomes a very realistic depiction of racism in this country, prejudice, stereotypes, hypocrisy, a lot of other things. And yeah, I do recommend reading it or listening to the audiobook at least once, or maybe both. So if you want to check out my review of that too, I'll provide a link of that as well. And so number 8, if you could be any monster, who or what would you be? I'm just going to go with the Invisible Man, because I figure, if you're invisible, you can sneak into movie theaters, you can travel for free on airplanes or whatever other mode of transportation. Yeah, pretty much get away with a lot of stuff. I know, like, some people would probably like use that ability to do a lot of like weird stuff, and I don't really know if I would. I like to think that I wouldn't. I'm pretty sure that I wouldn't, but mostly I would. I would probably spend most of my time, the majority of my time, sneaking into movie theaters. Yeah. So that's it for my tag. Of course, there's a number 9. Number 9 is just spread the monster love, tag some people. So I'm going to go ahead and tag some fellow booktubers. First one is Brews and Reviews. They're two really cool ladies. They talk about books and they also talk about movies, which is something that I also do, so I definitely like that they do that as well. So yeah, I tagged them, Brews and Reviews. Number 2, Todd the Librarian. He's also a pretty cool guy, pretty cool booktuber. Number 3, Bookish Queen. She used to be known as Taste of Regret, but she recently changed her channel name to Bookish Queen. She's also a pretty cool booktuber as well. Definitely check her out. Of course, provide a link to her channel and the other ones too, everyone that I mentioned. Number 4, Worth 1,000 Words. She's formerly known as Kathy Chatty. Number 5, Knits and Lit. Number 6, Cat's Book End. And 7, Matilda Gothica. So yeah, those are all the booktubers I tag, fellow booktubers, awesome people. Definitely check out their channels and provide links to all of their channels and whatnot. And yeah, if you're watching this and you want to do this tag, please feel free to do it. It is my first original tag. You know, tag as many people as you want, spread it around, and also feel free to change around some of the questions, you know, if you want to. I'm not going to say, you know, for me, I chose to base it off of the more classic movie monsters. So, yeah, I don't know. If you want to keep it that way, if you want to alter the questions around slightly or whatever, feel free to do so. So, yeah, thanks for watching. That'll do it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff if you feel up to it. Check me out on social media. I usually post a lot of stuff on there, weird stuff, funny stuff. You know, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatnot, Snapchat. So, and that'll do it. Thanks for watching. As always, till next time, don't forget, keep it real, keep on rocking, and peace. Oh yeah, and have a happy Halloween.